Every city has its own forests, gardens, and parks. While parks are entirely a man-made construction, they don't exist solely for their aesthetic value. For some animals, parks are the only places where they can find the resources they need. However, while parks are numerous in almost every city, they are populated not with an abundance of wild animal species, but humans. Luckily, animals are adaptive creatures and always find a way to make the most of their situation. Faced with an almost daily set of challenges, each animal must choose its own approach, whether to draw back or to forge ahead, to adapt or to escape. Every choice they make is crucial to their survival. In Beijing, each park has its own unique history. This is the Summer Palace, once the imperial garden of the Qing dynasty. This squirrel has survived the winter, but is fresh out of food stores after a long hibernation period. But hunger quickly gives way to thirst. In the winter, her primary source is snow, but this year snow has been scarce. Although she can make do without food for a time, without water, she will almost surely die. Fortunately, the trees provide the sustenance she needs. She seizes the opportunity. The water comes from the roots of the tree and has traveled all the way up into the dry branches, finally gathering at the newly formed buds. But these old trees only barely quench her thirst. She must be patient. Fortunately, there are other sources she can draw from. Sometimes there are benefits to living alongside her human counterparts. Replenished and rejuvenated, she's now healthy and in heat, which does not go unnoticed by nearby males. However, her instincts are strong. She is not about to let just anybody waltz into her territory. Love has to be earned. Another species of squirrel can be found in some parks, the Pear David's rock squirrel. These squirrels live not in the trees, but inside the crevices in rocks. This park perfectly imitates their natural habitat. To find his food, this squirrel enlists the help of an unlikely friend, the azure-winged magpie. It's a tried-and-true method that has served him well over the years. By carefully observing the magpie's movements, he can always find his own piece of the pie. This squirrel has just mated and is in even more dire need of food. As an expectant mother, she needs to consume as much food as possible to feed the baby in her belly. But the pine cones she usually feasts on are not yet ripe. Peak season for spring tourists comes at the Summer Palace. With every visitor that enters the park, her chances of finding food dramatically increase. While there is plenty of food to be found in the garbage, it's not always a suitable meal for the common squirrel. However, she has been living in the park for years and has developed an iron stomach. Starches are generally indigestible for most squirrels, but she doesn't seem to mind. Right now, her biggest concern is the baby inside her. The Eurasian red squirrel, also known as the northern squirrel, is born in the freezing northeastern climes of China. Its thick coat of fur helps keep it warm in the winter months. But it's spring now, and it has shed most of its coat, making it appear much thinner than usual. This squirrel has a much more limited diet. Since nuts are high in calories and rich in fat, they are an attractive source of food. Since these squirrels have also become accustomed to the presence of humans, they have learned to take this unique relationship to their advantage. But not all animals in the park benefit from the humans around them. In the insect kingdom, the Chinese mantis is at the top of the food chain. In order to catch their prey, their bodies and forelegs have evolved to become more suitable for hunting. However, the more they eat, the larger they get, which makes them easier to spot. This mantis has also made its home in one of Beijing's many parks. But keeping the foliage lush and healthy has come at a cost. Insecticides have killed off much of their prey, so the only mantises that survive here are the most efficient hunters. Those that aren't either starve to death or are forced to retreat to the denser forests. However, there are always some that see the city as a means of a new life. In a nursery just outside the city, a Chinese scallard tree is getting ready to be transported to a new urban development zone. Camouflaged among the tree branches is an egg sac laid by a mantis from the previous autumn. If it stays intact, hundreds of mantises will hatch from the egg sac 2 months from now. But several of these trees are relocated from here every day, and any number of things could happen to it during the long ride into the city. Their survival is left to the fates. Fortunately, we've ensured this batch will make it safely to its new home. When they hatch in the beginning of summer, hundreds will have an opportunity to grow up into healthy adults and perhaps one day lay eggs of their own. With the arrival of these trees, this once barren area will have its own unique ecosystem. The relocation has been a success, and it appears the egg sac is intact. But it's not out of the woods yet. Of the mantises that will hatch, only a tiny fraction of them will survive. Other mantises have taken up residence in a much more peculiar setting. Inside Beijing's second ring road lies the remnants of the earliest large-scale amusement park in the city. Once teeming daily with thousands of park visitors, it's now home to a diverse population of insects and other small creatures. Once again, nature is reclaiming its territory. All is as it should be, for now. These are the natural conditions for a mantis to hunt. As long as they have their prey, their numbers will flourish. Two months later, the construction project has bloomed into a paradise of trees and flowers. The baby mantises are just beginning to hatch, but only a lucky handful will make it through their first week. Fortunately, the praying mantis is not endangered. With more and more green spaces being built and plenty of forest to forage, this revered insect will always have a place to call home. However, other more timid animals are not as lucky. Yue Ying has trouble recalling how many years have passed since she saw a long-eared owl at the Temple of Heaven. There was a time when dozens of them could be found in the trees overhead.
就这几棵，这几棵树就是原来长耳鸮比较多的地方，现在也没有了。
During the Ming and Qing dynasties, the Temple of Heaven was where the emperors would make their sacrifices to the gods. Today, it's open to the public. Over the centuries, more and more trees and vegetation have been added to the park, making it a haven for all kinds of small animal species. Having grown up near the temple, Yue Ying has witnessed these changes firsthand.
像我小时候，这一片会种了很多果树，有那个苹果什么的。收苹果的时候，我们学校里边就安排到这儿来采摘苹果，现在都没有了已经。
Today, Yue Ying is a teacher at a science and technology museum. For her college graduation project in 2000, she spent an entire winter here, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive long-eared owl. No one can say exactly how long these owls have been living in the Temple of Heaven, but they have been known to spend their winters in the park. During the day, they prefer to hide in the dense tapestry of pine and cypress trees, only emerging to hunt under the cover of night. Their serrated feathers allow them to cut silently through the darkness and sneak up on their prey unexpected. Below the canopy, the undigested remains of their last meal lay scattered across the forest floor. These oddly shaped droppings provide Yue Ying with the perfect chance to teach her students about the bird's diet.
能看到有什么？有骨头，有毛，是吗？有骨头和毛。
他们那个不是应该像头骨？哪那么像？像，哎，这才真正头骨。这脑这。
One day, Yue Ying hopes she can take her students to see the long-eared owl in its natural habitat.
好，那咱们今天呢就到这儿，好吗？好，去吧。
等你。对，我们外边等你。老师再见。
拜拜。拜拜。特别喜欢，因为从98年开始，我第一次去天坛公园看这个长耳鸮嘛。
然后从那个时候就开始每年都关注它，就像一个每年定期来约会的一个老朋友，每年到冬天11月份他就来北京，我就肯定就去看他，然后3月底他就走了，然后就送他走了，就是这样。
Although Yue Ying hasn't seen her old acquaintance in years, she still believes they'll be reunited again someday.
99年到2000年的时候，我就住在这里面，然后每天就晚上就在这里边看着他什么时候离开呀，什么时候早上什么时候回来。
长耳鸮它还有一个名字叫做长耳木兔，身上的那个羽毛它跟这个树皮的颜色非常接近，就觉得是一个树桩一样。
There is still no sign of long-eared owls at the Temple of Heaven.
也许它就生活在我们看不见的其他的什么地方吧。
It could be the noisy park atmosphere, a lack of food, or some other unknown reasons the Temple of Heaven's long-eared owl seems to have disappeared. The truth is, we may never know. It's a long winter, however, and Yue Ying has an abundance of patience. Elsewhere in the city, another park is brimming with life. Just like in the wild, any source of water is as good a place as any to set up shop, especially in winter. The heat from the city melts the ice, creating an oasis for these water birds. Among them is a very familiar sounding bird we ironically know little about, the mandarin duck. As winter comes to a close, most of the mandarin ducks have finished hibernating and are ready to travel back northeast to give birth to their young. Yet not everyone is keen on the long journey. This handsome young couple intends to stay right where they are. Apparently, these two males still think they have a chance. Maybe not. Although they are spared the exhausting flight, this couple is still faced with many challenges ahead. First, they'll be needing a home. A hole in a nearby tree seems like a suitable place to start. It's large enough, high enough, and is away from prying eyes. This is prime real estate, and if they want it, they'll have to defend it. It might not be worth the hassle. Li Guo has lived next to Zhizhuyuan Park for years and is no stranger to the company of mandarin ducks. Over the past few years, Li has been building wooden homes for ducks, so they don't need to resort to the less suitable tree holes they are used to. But first, he'll need to get his feet wet. His plan is to climb this tree to get a better look.
上去看看。
不，我给你送到那上面，然后呢？
然后我再想办法。
你不用想办法，就你够都够不着。
你俩都上去，上完之后再踩你肩膀再上去。小心啊，小心搂住了。
搂住已经，往那洞那儿拍行。那等还有个树杈子，尽量扶那粗树，别扶那细的。
手抱住。
去年的时候孵出的是6一是吧？6一孵出了，然后往前倒1个月的话，大概5一的时候开始孵，要4月底就能看到小鸳鸯了。
For the ducks to adopt their new home, the location and structure of the nest must first meet all their basic needs. To build the artificial nests, Li Guo enlists the help of his British friend, Li Guo. Li Guo has been practicing carpentry for years, and there is no better person to turn to for this kind of job. It will take some time, but eventually they'll have crafted the perfect nest.
I'll have a try there. Then you try that.
For the wooden nest to be an attractive dwelling for a bird, the measurements must be precise. After 8 hours of hard work, the makeshift nest is complete.
你对这个做的还满意吗？
我觉得还好。
He is genuinely the most clever person I've ever met in my entire life. What he's doing is amazing. What he's put into it and the technology and how he's done it is far beyond what I could have done when I was that young. I know it's for some mandarin ducks, but I don't know what mandarin ducks are. First time I've built anything for an animal.
In April, there are several pregnant females looking for nests to lay eggs. Li Guo will have to work fast. To hang the nest at a suitable height, he'll have to brush up on his tree climbing skills.
树要细行吗？
细可以，就这个。
你身手不错呀，这个东西还挺好使的。坐。
2 weeks later, Li Guo returns to Ziju Huan Park to set up his nest.
So 说明现在可能是那边那个湖心岛也有人。
各位游客，因今天风力较大，为了您的安全。
你上去的时候找地方把这个扣上，这咋扣？
For Li Guo, tree climbing is no different than riding a bike. To his surprise, There are already some freshly laid eggs inside the nest he made last year.
这地上在弄的，这还有去年粘的大力胶的。
因为这像新蛋吧？
新的，二蛋是新的，新的。
这3个蛋是我们刚才从旧巢箱里面拿出来的。我们感觉这个可能是有远远新下的蛋，这2个是肯定是去年的陈蛋。
走。放进去。
The only thing left to do now is wait.
希望今年还6月1号小圆也能孵出来。
It's right around the time for the long-eared owls to start their migration from Beijing. Yue Ying waits with excited anticipation.
说这个上礼拜的时候在南海子看到了这个长耳鸮，然后今天想去找找，也不知道能不能找到，带着学生们去碰碰运气吧。
So far, the long-eared owls haven't made an appearance.
一会儿我们看看哪个小朋友咱们能够第一个发现猫头鹰，好吗？好。
The last thing Yue Ying wants is to disappoint her students.
走，咱们再找。
树底下发现了一大堆。
在哪棵树上？树底下。
树底下发现了有很多。
你刚才在哪儿捡到的？你看到了，这是一个，应该是某种山雀，山雀的头骨，大家看看。啊，这也是。
They seem to be hot on the trail, and the children are getting more excited.
老师，这是吗？
是。对，有牙。
In order not to scare the owls away, Yue Ying decides to break away from the group.
看这些都是石团，1、2、3、4、5、6，这一小块这就是6个。我觉得它在这儿生活的时间还是挺长的，应该整个冬天都是在这儿。咱们看这上面，这个都是粪便。我们一般能找着粪便，新鲜粪便就说明有长耳鸮。11，这些都是石团，而且看见了。
你在这儿。
看见了。对，他正低着头看着咱们呢。觉得能找到他是非常开心的。孩子们，来。一会儿我会带着大家，咱们到那里面去看一下，然后大家一定要保持安静啊，必须要保持安静。嘘，在那儿呢，再顺着我手指，可以先不用望远镜，可以先不用。
眼睛，
Owls are notoriously hard to spot in the wild. This might be the only time these children will ever have the chance.
李勇，你看见猫头鹰了吗？看见了是吧？这个猫头鹰好可爱呀，是吗？
For Yue Ying, it's a nostalgic reunion. 17 years ago, her father would go to the Temple of Heaven every day to collect droppings from the owls.
算我的启蒙。
Today, he still practices his hobby in an effort to educate children about the long-eared owl. As the warm season fades, the long-eared owls must return to their hometown in the north. Looking down on the temple of heaven from above, Yue Ying is reminded of the countless days she spent within its walls, observing one of the world's most reclusive animals. Back in Zizhu Yuan Park, a mandarin duck has settled down in Li Guo's nest box. In the early hours of the morning a month later, the baby mandarin ducks finally hatch from their eggs. Even as newborns, their impulse to break free from their mother and begin exploring the world is strong. At dawn, Li Guo's family and friends arrive at the lake to check on the baby ducks. As soon as they get the signal from their mother, the chicks will follow her out of the nest.
应该就是在看外面的情况怎么样。如果外面的情况比较好呢，然后它就会带着小鸳鸯一块跳出来。
The mother seems especially cautious today. She's most likely worried about the long drop down for her babies.
你看那个雌鸳鸯在探头呢。能看见头啦？能看见。
The mother is clearly caught in a dilemma. While the jump down might injure her babies, she can't leave them in their nest either.
7点到7点半，我觉得要不出来的话，可能就明天了。不过看今天的样子，对，一直在往外探，一直在看。
Finally, she decides to make the leap.
他站着不动，你看见发现了吗？
下来了，
下来了，出来了是吗？
出来了。
一个跳出来了。 两个，3个，4个，5个，6个，7个，还有一个，这里边是剩一个了，看小圆圆多。下来了，出来了是吗？8只。
哎，这
1、2、3，耶！
不用再等第2天了。
太棒了！乐乐看见，你哥没看见。
After being cooped up for so long, there's nothing like a nice, refreshing dip in the lake. This is by far the most successful result in his 3 years working with mandarin ducks. What's even more satisfying is that his teachers and classmates are now in on the fun. This is just another example of the reverence Beijingers have for the wildlife in their city. In fact, many of the animals found in these parks benefit from human intervention. It's late spring, which means it's aphid season in Beijing. Aphids are generally considered pests, since they are one of the most destructive insects on Earth. Aside from weakening plants by sucking the sap from them, they also act as disease carriers. Of course, as annoying as they are to us humans, they are just doing what they need to do to survive. From an ecological standpoint, they are a highly effective organism. To adapt to different seasons and temperatures, aphids have developed the ability to give birth to live young, as well as lay eggs. To find food, some have even evolved to grow wings. Because of their strong reproductive capabilities, aphids are extremely difficult to eradicate. Since they tend to feed on the underside of leaves, insecticides are not always an effective control method. To alleviate the problem of aphids, Jiang Lu Yan, manager of the Longtan Shihu Park, has chosen a different approach.
真的非常大。其实农药不光是影响，就是这个我们看得见的，其实它也会影响地下水啊、水啊。非常好的这个生态圈的话，其实是非常
很多都需要去做才行。
对，它现在就是刚才比较受惊吓，现在就会稍微的安静一会儿，然后再开始寻找它的食物。
This strange little crawler may look like a caterpillar, but it is actually called an Asian lady beetle. Its diet consists almost entirely of aphids. It begins consuming them in large quantities immediately after it's born. Right now, its appetite is almost insatiable because it's just about to begin its metamorphosis. But these aphids have a trick up their sleeve. They excrete honeydew, a sugary resin irresistible to ants. In order to uphold this symbiotic relationship, ants will defend the aphids from any predator that comes near their precious nectar. If a lady beetle wants its dinner, it will have to fight for it. Every animal has its own defense mechanism. The lady beetles will have more than enough to feast on, but not enough to extinguish the entire species. This is one of nature's most important laws: balance. Just like how aphids employ ants to their benefit, humans have now found a way to use lady beetles for their own. At the end of summer, Jiang Lu Yan releases her latest batch of lady beetles into the park. Here, they will have a longer lifespan than they would if they were elsewhere in the wild, as there are not as many large predators to contend with. In the winter, they will gather under stumps and rocks to hibernate until spring. If they can't find a suitable place to overwinter, they do have a backup plan. And where better to spend the colder months than in the warmth of someone's home? These lady beetles seem to know the perfect place to shack up. Jiang Lu Yen's office. Here, the temperature and humidity will more than suit their needs. Jiang's daughter spots some just as they are about to sneak inside.
有这么多只呢？
冻死了呀！
哪只冻死了？
这只呀，小心一点点。
Jiang Lu Yen decides to leave the window open for the lady beetles to come and go as they please.
小心一点。
没有问题。
进去吧，小瓢虫。
While it may not have been their intention to live their lives inside the park, they can at least find safe refuge this winter, and hopefully many more to come. Even in the city, amongst its relocated trees, artificial gardens and parks, animals will always find ways to survive. The key to finding that perfect balance between humans, animals, and nature is having a respect for the world around us and those things big and small we share it with.